The member from Oshawa.
Thank you, Speaker, and my question is to the Premier. More than 185 municipalities have passed resolutions opposing the sale of Hydro One. In Durham, these municipalities include Whitby, Clarington, Pickering, Uxbridge, and my community of Oshawa. These municipalities know that their rates will rise after Hydro One is sold. They know that manufacturing and auto sector jobs will disappear with the rising costs of electricity. Will the Premier listen to municipalities like Whitby and Oshawa and stop her short-sighted sell-off of Hydro's oldest and most important public asset?
I'm going to reinforce what I said earlier about the need for investment in infrastructure, because I know, Mr. Speaker, for a fact that Durham region is very interested in increased investment in infrastructure, Mr. Speaker. So I would ask the member, our members from Durham are very clear that they would like to see enhanced investment in infrastructure. So, Mr. Speaker, I would say to the member opposite that as she talks about the importance of listening to municipal councils, that she might want to take into account what those municipal councils say to us every time we meet about the need to invest in infrastructure, including transit, Mr. Speaker, including expansion of roads and bridges, and that is exactly why we have had to make decisions in order to find the resources to make those investments.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Thank you, Speaker, and of course I appreciate hearing that the Premier does acknowledge there is an area east of Toronto, and that's great. The Ontario Energy Board clearly cannot say no to Hydro One. This winter, peak hour electricity rates will be 25% higher than they were last winter.
That's enough. Finish, please.
Just imagine the rate increases that Hydro One will demand when private profits drive all decisions. The Minister of Energy says people should just stop using electricity during the day. I suppose he thinks Whitby and Oshawa's factories should shut down during the day as well. Will the Premier listen to municipalities like Whitby and Oshawa and stop her sell-off of Hydro One?
Don't sell it.
Minister of Energy.
Mr. Speaker, the member is really starting with a very, very false premise. Hydro One does not set its own rates now. It will not set its rates later, Mr. Speaker. She talks about private companies automatically being able to raise rates, Mr. Speaker. Private companies like Enbridge, Union Gas are also regulated by the Ontario Energy Board, Mr. Speaker, and their rates have been going down over the last 5 years, Mr. Speaker. It is totally independent. In addition, Mr. Speaker, in terms of planning the system, it's still within the responsibility of the ISO. Hydro One will not plan the system, Mr. Speaker. The Ontario Securities Commission will require them to disclose salaries, Mr. Speaker, and many other things, such as quarterly audited financial statements being made public. There is good governance, Mr. Speaker. The premise of the question that rates will go up because its ownership is being broadened is totally, absolutely incorrect.